I remember once in an interview being asked where was the favorite place that I've lived, and the answer I gave was that picking a favorite would be like picking a favorite child. Is that sure, we might have our preferences, we might secretly have a favorite, but that publicly I'm not going to admit something. Now, that's not entirely true, and I'll get into the favorite places that I've lived before. And maybe this is interesting to you because you're just like, hey, I want to know where Dan liked to live. But maybe it's a way for you to get some insight into living abroad or becoming a digital nomad and thinking about where you might want to live and how it's enjoyable. A bit of my backstory, if you haven't heard it before, I don't even know if actually in any of my YouTube videos. So I left Canada in 2012 and started living in different countries. I started in Costa Rica and stayed there for about 4 months. And then from Costa Rica, went to New York. And from New York, I ended up following a friend to Europe where he was going to do a master's degree. So I lived in Hamburg, Germany. And then I went on to Bologna, Italy, to Barcelona, Spain, back to Hamburg, then to Berlin, and then to Prague. And I actually settled into Prague here about 2 years ago, and have had it as a home base ever since. So I've lived in a couple of different places, to say the least, and have some favorite and some places I disliked. The first thing when I think about where I've lived that comes to mind is that there's good and bad for everywhere, and everywhere to me has good memories and experiences. So I've never been someone who's got to a place and after a week just said, screw this, and left. Italy would have been probably the place where I could have done that if I was that kind of person, because it was cold. Got there in January, but thought it would be warm. I don't know why. Thought Italy would be a hot place. So got there. It was cold. It was a little miserable. Some issues with the apartment and things like that right off the bat. But I always like to stick things out because that's, I don't know, how you learn, how you get a good experience. The other thing I've come to realize is that your mood or circumstances in life, in terms of, I guess, your big picture mood, the phase of life that you're in, can have a big impact on how you enjoy a place, and it can also have a big impact on, like, or I should say it should have a big impact on where you want to live and how that place can play into your goals at the time. So for example, Prague I love right now. It's arguably my favorite city, and one of the things I love about it is it's a pretty easy city, like in terms of getting groceries, getting to places, taking Uber or transit everywhere. Everything you need is here. Tons of cafes. I mean, within my apartment, within a 10-minute walk, there's maybe 6 places I can go, get breakfast, and get some work done, which is pretty great. Um, so for where I'm at right now with life, it's a really good spot. I'm really enjoying work. Like making these videos, I wouldn't even call it work, but like making these videos, making content, writing, leading the free freelancer program, I'm enjoying this. And I love that Prague makes that possible while still being a really exciting and interesting city. On the other hand, there's places like the more tropical, living on the beach, those sorts of areas where they're very appealing if you're into water sports, or maybe if I was taking some time off where I just wanted to work a couple hours a day, relax, I'd probably more lean towards those places. So I mentioned Prague, one of my favorite places. The other city would be Barcelona. Barcelona is a place where if I had to stay in one place for the rest of my life, it would be Barcelona, where there's everything you need. There's a good, decent to good entrepreneurial scene. There's culture. It's a big enough city. It's exciting. It's interesting. But it also has a beach. And I grew up on the ocean as well. So I do miss it when I'm not by the water. So it has a beach. It has warm weather. And Spanish is a lot easier to learn than, say, Czech or German. So I enjoy that as well. So my tie between my two favorite places, I would say, is Barcelona and Prague. And that is okay because my plan in general, how I've set up my life, is to have my home base in Prague, but spend a couple months, at least a year, in Spain, generally around the weather as well, and have the best of both worlds there. I will mention my runner-up, which is New York. New York, I love. It was my favorite city before I went there, and it stayed my favorite city while I was there. I had an amazing time. But I'm conscious that part of the great time I had was because of friends who were there and a certain setup and a certain like time of my life. And so if I went back to New York, I don't know if it would have that still, or if I'd be trying to sort of recapture something or that. So, and that happens. I think in life we have phases we go through, right? Certain times where you're looking to more like relax, have fun, certain times you're looking to work really hard, and also just certain phases of life where you want different things. So New York was amazing to live there. I still love going back to visit, but I'm conscious that it was probably the best possible time I could have was when I lived there, and going back would never be the same. So maybe not even try. So if you are a digital nomad, a location independent entrepreneur, just someone who's lived in a lot of places, let me know in the comment, what is your favorite place to live? Whether or not you still live there now, not relevant, but what was or is your favorite place to live and why? What's important to you? And if you want, we can make it a little negative too. If you did have a really bad experience somewhere where you lived there and was like, never again, that was not for me, do share that in the comments as well. Feel free. Cool. Thanks for watching. Catch you in another video.